Welcome back to another episode of the What We're Watching podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jenny, and today we're talking about Home Alone.
Another Christmas special, guys.
Yay!
Yay!
This was a highly requested Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm. I think this was one that wasn't even on our radar until we did polls and everyone wanted it. The people love the Christmas classics, which I totally understand.
I do too.
Yeah, me too.
But it is funny that it wasn't necessarily on our radar. I mean, it was. I think we always had it on our list, but we had maybe girlier classics ahead of it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes, or a couple of the more modern Netflix streamer holiday movies. I think we were going to try to mix it up a little bit more. But you guys love the classics, and so do we.
Yeah.
I think that's what I watch with my family, so I get it. It makes sense.
And this movie is the quintessential Christmas movie. I think every year people watch this annually. I actually love this time of the podcast. I think October through December is just always full of seasonal movies. We've got Halloween, then fall movies, and then Christmas movies, and it's so nice.
Mm-hmm. It gets you in the spirit.
Really does.
Quick reminder, if you've been enjoying all the Christmas movies we've been talking about, to leave us a review wherever you're listening, and follow us on social media at What We're Watching Pod.
We love connecting with you guys on Instagram. It is the most fun thing ever when we get messages from you. There was one episode we did recently where we asked for your top 4 movies, and a lot of you guys responded and told us your top 4, and it was just so nice to get to connect with you on that level and get to know you a little bit better, so thank you.
It's really fun. And we do a lot of polls over there, so if Jenny and I are ever torn on what movie to do, or we're trying to narrow down a list of movies that we want to do in a certain month, we always ask you guys for your opinions to win tiebreakers. And it's really fun to see what your guys' favorite movies are. So thank you for participating.
This is Editing Jenny here, just jumping in to say that we have something super exciting for you this week. We partnered with Julia, who is a friend of the pod, a journalist, and she runs the Substack newsletter called Beyond My Byline, to bring you a free gift guide for movie lovers. We handpicked a bunch of gift ideas with Julia. We've got a little bit of everything on there for every kind of movie lover, and you better believe we have a bunch of ideas for Y2K rom-com lovers like us. So whether you're still doing your holiday shopping or maybe you're working on your own Christmas list, we hope that these ideas help you. Beyond My Byline has tons of other great gift guides too, so we hope you check them out. The link is in the podcast description. Now back to the episode.
So the synopsis, I think I'm going to start saying synopsis and just pulling the longer ones.
Okay.
I know. I was about to say the log line for this movie is, but if you listened to our Love Actually episode, then you know a log line is actually only one sentence. And I think it's kind of nice to give you guys the 3 to 4 sentence synopsis, because if you haven't seen it in a long time, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Before we talk about the cast and stuff.
Or is this a summary? Is it a synopsis? Is a synopsis does that include the ending as well?
I don't know. What's the difference between
gosh.
a synopsis and a summary? It's the thing when you Google the movie, either Google AI or IMDb.
Or Wikipedia,
yes,
something.
Or Google Movies pops up with a short paragraph that tells you the premise of the movie.
Premise. Maybe it's the premise.
Okay, we'll workshop this.
We'll workshop it.
I'll just change it every time. You guys won't know what's coming. Okay, the premise of this movie is, it feels wrong.
It feels like it should
I
be
didn't
log
write
line.
it.
But you've said log line for
a year
over a year.
But that's not right. Okay.
Guys, weigh in.
The synopsis. Just know that I didn't write this, okay? I copy and pasted this from Google. That's what you need to know. I feel like when you say the premise of the show is blah, 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 that's in your own words. Okay, I'm getting too caught up in the facts here. I'm just going to read it. When bratty 8-year-old Kevin McAllister acts out right before a family trip to Paris, his mother makes him sleep in the attic. After the McAllisters mistakenly leave for the airport without Kevin, he awakens to an empty house and assumes his wish to have no family has come true. But his excitement sours when he realizes that 2 con men plan to rob the McAllister residence, and that he alone must protect the family home.
This is a wild premise.
Wild. And complex, kind of.
Yeah. Did you watch this movie a lot as a kid?
Not a lot, but I watched it enough to remember it pretty well, yeah. How about you?
Okay, you did.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've for sure seen it, but I didn't remember anything except like the pranks,
Mm,
you know? And even those were kind of fuzzy to me.
yeah.
So I knew the premise, but everything that happened, I was like, oh, I don't remember this. I don't remember the dynamics of his family, you know?
Yes, totally. Same. I have not seen it since I was a kid, for sure.
But it was fun. It was a really good rewatch.
It was really cute. And baby Macaulay Culkin is so cute.
So cute.
So this movie came out on November 10th, 1990. And I read that it was actually filmed from February to May of the same year.
That's a long time.
So they filmed February to May of 1990, which, yeah, that is I think decently long for filming, several months, especially.
With little kids who are aging quickly?
Right. But the turnaround time is what I'm impressed by. I'm like, Netflix is taking 2 years to come out with a few episodes of a show. And you're telling me they filmed from February to May and then the movie came out the beginning of November.
Okay.
It's like 6 months.
Go off. We
I
love
know.
that.
They did film in Winnetka, Illinois, which I believe is where it's supposed to take place. So they filmed like on site in this little town, which I think is cute. And the duo behind this movie is iconic. You guys will recognize both of these names and probably a lot of their projects. I was very excited to read this. So the movie was directed by Chris Columbus. Also, I'm sorry, you guys can absolutely hear my pregnancy out of breath. There's like a baby pushing into my lungs right now. And I'm constantly like heavy breathing, so sorry. So the movie is directed by Chris Columbus. He's a famous producer, director, and writer. He directed Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I've heard a lot of great things about him in interviews with the Harry Potter cast about how much they loved working with him and how great he was with kids, which is cute. He also did Mrs. Doubtfire, I Love You, Beth Cooper, Percy Jackson and the Olympian, The Lightning Thief, Home Alone 2, among many, many other things. And this movie was written by John Hughes, which I had no idea. He's a very famous writer. He's responsible for Breakfast Club, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Miracle on 34th Street, Beethoven, Made in Manhattan, 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Some Kind of Wonderful, National Lampoon's European Vacation, and he also did Home Alone 2 and 3.
Ooh, you did a lot of that with limited breath, honestly.
Thank you. And I could go on. Those are just all the ones that I recognized. So a very famous team behind this movie.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Should we talk about the cast?
Let's do it. There's obviously a ton of people in this movie because the McAllister family is huge. So I'm going to touch on who I really think are the two most important people in the movie, the two leads, and then we'll mention everybody else kind of throughout.
Sounds good. Okay, let's talk about Macaulay Culkin, who plays Kevin McAllister.
You guys know Macaulay Culkin. He was a famous child actor, and his fame really exploded after Home Alone, which this was actually his 5th movie.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
I know, so he started working very young.
He was such a good little actor.
I know, he was so good. His brothers in real life are also actors. You guys probably recognize them. We definitely at least know Kieran Culkin, who is in this movie very briefly. He's one of the brothers. And he is also in Succession. He plays Roman. And he's in Father of the Bride as Maddie, Annie's little brother.
Yeah, I remember us getting some heat on social media for this because when we did our Father of the Bride episode, we were talking about Kieran Culkin. And I think we said that we didn't know that he had been in other things as a kid, or we didn't know he was a child actor. And everyone was like, hello, he's in Home Alone.
Yeah.
I felt kind of dumb. I was like, oh, I guess I should have known that. But then when I was watching this movie, I was like, okay, Kieran Culkin was in that movie for 1 minute.
Yeah. He really has like 5 seconds where they show his face and that's it.
Yeah. So, you know, I know we have a movie podcast, but there's no way I would have known that.
A lot of you guys might know that Macaulay Culkin was famously good friends with Michael Jackson. They had this kind of like long-standing, unexpected friendship and said a lot of great things about each other. Obviously, there are allegations out there about Michael Jackson, so we will never know the real nature of their relationship. Maybe it was totally harmless, but he is the godfather of Michael Jackson's daughter, Paris Jackson, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah. Also, because I'm like, what's the age difference there?
Yeah, exactly. Macaulay was like 20 years younger than Michael, so
okay,
interesting.
Yeah. Huh.
Macaulay also married a fellow actor named Rachel Miner in 1998 when they were both 18 years old.
Oh.
I had no idea their marriage lasted for 2 years. And then after that, which I think a lot of people know this, but I remember where I was when I learned this. He dated Mila Kunis for 8 years, guys, after this marriage. So from 2002 to 2010.
You guys can't see my face, but I think my brain just broke.
Yeah, I know. For a long time, like almost a decade, they were like, everyone knew it. They were together forever. Like, I just think of them as like the friends in the friend group that are together forever.
They just don't seem like a combo to me, but maybe, I don't know why. Maybe because they do different kinds of movies and shows and stuff.
Yeah. They were together for like all of their 20s, though, which is crazy.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah. If you listen to the first time that Mila Kunis was on Armchair Expert, I remember when that came out because that's where I learned that they had dated for such a long time, and they talk a little bit about the relationship. And I believe Mila alludes to maybe like, I don't know if she cheated on him or she did something to like make the relationship end. Cause I think she said something in that interview along the lines of like, I needed to figure out why I did X, Y, and Z that made it end, you know? Like she was just like, I was, you know, in my 20s and in this really long-term relationship. And anyway, it sounded like a not great breakup.
Did she leave him for Ashton?
I don't know the timing of that.
2010 sounds kind of...
So I think most of the time that she was with, actually the whole time that she was with Macaulay, he was married to Demi Moore.
That's right. Okay.
And then Ashton and Mila kind of came back together in 2012, so it would have been a couple of years after.
Okay. My timelines are all adding up now and making sense.
Yeah, but you're not that far off. Macaulay and Mila would have broken up in 2010. Mila and Ashton got together in 2012.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Anyway, if you guys are interested in hearing more about that relationship, I would definitely recommend that episode of Armchair Expert because I listened to it years ago and I don't remember all the details, but I remember it being very interesting.
Okay, good to know.
And now a lot of people know this. He has a pretty private family life, which includes his longtime relationship with Brenda Song.
I love it. They're one of my favorite celebrity couples.
Me too.
Even though I know nothing about them.
No, yeah, me too. I think people just love that they, you know, these two child stars that they adore ended up together. I think that's so sweet.
Yeah.
They've been together since 2017. They met on the set of Changeland, and they have 2 sons. The first one is named Dakota Song Culkin, and they haven't released the name of their second son, but they've been engaged since 2022.
That makes me so happy. One thing I love is that I'm pretty sure that they named their son Dakota after Macaulay Culkin's late sister named Dakota. And so I just think that was really sweet to like honor his sister.
Really sweet.
Okay, should we talk about Catherine O'Hara, who plays Kate McAllister, Kevin's mom?
She's been in so many things, including as a voice actor. So she was in Beetlejuice, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Chicken Little, A Series of Unfortunate Events, For Your Consideration, Elemental, Where the Wild Things Are, and most notably, of course, as Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek.
Wait, is that the mom?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I recognize her now, even though I've never seen Schitt's Creek, actually.
Okay, yeah. You'll have to watch it. She's hilarious in that show. I have not watched all of it through, but I watched a bunch of episodes here and there. And she's so funny, and the way she speaks is just hilarious. Catherine O'Hara originally rose to fame on a Canadian sketch comedy show called SCTV before she got into movies, and she was known for her impersonations on the show.
Oh, interesting.
So all this makes sense with like the voice acting that she's done in a lot of animated movies, and then also as Moira Rose, because Moira Rose is known for her voice. So it's just, it makes sense.
That's so interesting. I love making this connection.
Mm-hmm. You would never know it from this movie, though, because in this movie she plays like classic suburban mom, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily a comedic role. Catherine has been married to her husband, Beau Welch, since 1992, and he's a production designer and director. He actually worked on the production design for Men in Black and Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. She had a couple of quotes that I really liked about working on Home Alone with Macaulay. This first quote is about working with him. She said, "It was as if this real boy Kevin was surrounded by actors and just went along with it for the fun. He's the reason we have all made watching Home Alone a family holiday tradition."
Wait, that's so sweet.
Yeah, she just like credits him with all of the success of the movie, which I agree. He's the most adorable little actor and he's incredible.
Uh-huh.
She had this quote about his explosive fame. She said, "It was more like either the Beatles or Elvis Presley or Gandhi. It's crazy to put that on a child. How many adults have ever been subjected to that kind of adoration? He never seemed he was in show business to build a worldwide fan club. I think Macaulay survived it to become a fine young man. He had somehow the wisdom and self-preservation at the age of 14 or something to say stop. He chose to allow himself a life outside of work, and he has been making his own choices since.
Wow.
Yeah, it sounds like she just has a lot of respect for him, for his talent, and for how he handled fame and then kind of stepped away.
Oh, I really like this. I like getting a glimpse, too, at what it was like on set for these movies. And I'm just imagining baby Macaulay Culkin, like, just acting like this was his real life. And that just is impressive.
Yeah, and I know Chris Columbus, the director, did a lot of like fun games and stuff with the kids in Harry Potter because he worked with them when they were like 10 to 13, which would have been about the same age. And a lot of the kids in that movie talk about how they were just like playing these like acting games and basically just being themselves but saying the lines, and how Chris Columbus had a really good way of like helping them do that. So I imagine it was really fun.
That's so cool. And then we have Joe Pesci, who plays Harry, a burglar.
Joe Pesci was a famous actor in the 80s and 90s. He's known for Goodfellas, My Cousin Vinny, the Lethal Weapon movies, Raging Bull, and many, many more. So I wanted to make sure we at least touch on him. And I thought this was funny, and it reminded me of what Meryl Streep said when she did Devil Wears Prada. Joe Pesci said that he deliberately avoided Macaulay Culkin on set because he wanted Macaulay to think he was mean. He didn't want to like play around with him since he's, you know, one of the bad guys.
Yeah.
Oh, that was funny.
Oh my gosh, that would have been so hard to do.
But it makes sense because it would have been so hard for Macaulay, I think, if they were like buddy-buddy on set, for him to then act super scared.
Yeah, and I think if you're acting with kids, you really do have to be mindful about how you act so that you don't mess up their acting.
Yeah, totally.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, should we get into the movie?
Let's do it. So the movie opens to a very chaotic scene. There are kids, there are adults, everyone's running around a house, which this is the McAllister family house, as a police officer stands in the foyer trying to get anyone's attention.
We cut to Kate McAllister, played by Catherine O'Hara, on the phone as she packs her suitcase. A little boy comes in complaining that he's not allowed to watch the same movie as the big kids. This is Kevin. He complains to his parents that he's not allowed to do anything. And we learn that Kevin is super sassy. I cannot imagine talking to my parents this way and getting away with it.
No, I think the point they're trying to make is that he's just the youngest of so many kids that his parents are just like, I don't have time for this, whatever's happening here.
Yeah.
They don't have it in them to even discipline him because they're just like, I am overstimulated.
Yeah. His parents finally kick him out of their room and tell him to go pack his suitcase.
Then we see that back downstairs, the cop is still standing in the doorway because he can't find an adult to talk to. And then we see Kevin, who's freaked out because he's never had to pack his own suitcase before, and his mom just told him that he had to pack, and he doesn't know how. As all of his siblings pass him in the hallway, they're giving him crap for this instead of actually helping him. One of his older sisters actually calls him incompetent and tells him that their mom is probably just going to pack his suitcase anyway, because she must know that he doesn't know how to do it. And then Kevin says when he grows up, he's going to live alone because he's just so sick of everyone. This kind of reminds me of the little redheaded boy in Cheaper by the Dozen.
Oh, yeah. It's been so long since I've seen that, but you're right.
Yeah. Like, I feel like in these movies with huge families, there's always one kid that's just like, I can't handle this. This is too much energy for me.
Or like the kid who's the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
You know? So Kevin asks his brother Buzz, played by Devin Rattray, if he can sleep in his room so he doesn't have to sleep with Fuller, who apparently wets the bed anytime he drinks something before bed. And Fuller is played by Kieran Culkin.
And he has little round glasses.
He's so cute.
He's so cute.
Buzz says no, but then points out their neighbor across the street through the window. He tells Kevin and another one of their brothers that their neighbor is the South Bend Shovel Slayer, a famous murderer. And we see him shoveling snow, and then they're talking about how he keeps bodies in his trash cans where he dumps the snow, and he's just really spooking the boys.
Mr. McAllister finally comes downstairs, and the cop says he's been doing rounds to all the houses in the neighborhood to make sure that everyone has proper safety precautions in place. And this is to protect their homes over the holiday season because apparently break-ins are more common over the holidays, especially if they're traveling. So this cop keeps asking Mr. McAllister and other family members where they're going on their trip and when they're leaving, but everyone is too busy to stop and answer.
Buzz eats all the cheese pizza, so there's none left for Kevin. I felt for him.
Yeah. Yes, as a cheese pizza girl.
Yes.
This was my sister Hannah as well. It was like, there must be cheese pizza for Hannah, you know?
Yeah. Back when I ate pepperoni, that was fine too. But if there's no cheese nowadays, what am I going to eat? Nothing. Poor Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin shoves Buzz, and then drinks spill all over the counter when he does this. And chaos ensues, and everyone gets mad at Kevin for causing such a commotion. Mrs. McAllister walks Kevin upstairs, and as they go, they stop to talk to the cop. And Mrs. McAllister tells him that they're leaving in the morning for Paris, which, why would you tell him this? I don't know.
Because he looks like a cop, so they think he's trustworthy. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, crazy.
Trusted adult.
And the cop tells her not to worry about her house because it's in good hands. Then she sends Kevin to the dreaded 3rd floor. She does agree to make Fuller sleep somewhere else, though. Kevin throws a fit and says that he wishes he had no family because families suck. And she says, I hope you don't mean that. You'd feel pretty sad tomorrow if you woke up and didn't have a family. And that night, in his little attic room, Kevin wishes that they would all just disappear.
Which I have to say, they've been making it out this whole time like the attic is so scary. And he goes up there and it is such a cute little just like bonus room with a pull-out couch.
Yeah.
I could not.
But I get it. I can remember being a kid and being afraid of like the areas where people weren't in the house. You know?
That's true. The next morning, the house goes nuts because everyone accidentally slept in and they're going to miss their flight. While this chaos is going on inside, there are 2 drivers that are going to drive them to the airport and they're loading the vans. And this neighbor kid comes over and annoys one of the drivers. He's like poking through all the stuff in the car. And then the McAllisters eventually get out the door in a rush and they get into the vans. And the oldest daughter is in charge of doing a head count of everyone. And she accidentally counts the neighbor boy instead of Kevin. And then as they're all piling in the car, a maintenance guy stops by and tells Mrs. McAllister that the phone lines will be down for a few days because of the previous night's storm.
On the plane, Mrs. McAllister says, I hope we didn't forget anything. And we cut to Kevin coming downstairs with his like sleepy bedhead. And the house is quiet and empty, and he realizes that he's home alone. He runs outside and sees that both cars are still at the house, so they must not have gone to the airport, he thinks. And then he remembers his wish and thinks that he made his whole family disappear.
This is so sad. And this is such accurate kid logic. Like, I totally know that's definitely what he thinks, you know?
Honestly, smart of him to go, oh, are the cars here?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. That means my wish came true.
Fault. Oh.
He is very happy with this, though. And he jumps on the bed with his shoes on, and he eats junk food, and he watches movies, and he goes through all of Buzz's stuff that he's not supposed to touch.
Back on the plane, Mrs. McAllister says that she has a bad feeling. So her and her husband talk about all the things that they know they did before they left, like turn off the coffee machine and lock the door. And then she realizes what they forgot. Kevin.
Nightmare. Then we see 2 guys in a big utility van, and this is Harry, played by Joe Pesci, and Marv, played by Daniel Stern. Harry was the cop from the night before, so now we're kind of seeing what their plan was.
Mm-hmm.
And now we know he definitely isn't a cop, he's a burglar. He says that 5 families from this block are all out of town, and the McAllister's house is their top target because it's really nice. And I agree, the outside of the house, gorgeous.
Stunning. Harry and Marv actually try to break into the McAllister's basement, but Kevin hears them, and so he turns the back porch light on, which is very smart, and it scares them away. And he's scared, obviously, so he hides under the bed.
This could have gone really bad.
Really bad, yeah.
This whole thing.
I was very sad and scared for him the whole movie.
We cut to the Paris airport where all the McAllisters run to the payphones to call the neighbors, cops, and everyone else they know.
And then we see Kevin tell himself that he can't be afraid anymore since he's the new man of the house. He's like hyping himself up because he thinks this is permanent and his fault, you know? So he runs outside to see the bad guys and he yells, I'm not afraid anymore. The bad guys are obviously gone, but the scary neighbor that Buzz warned him about turns up across the street. And so Kevin screams as soon as he sees him and runs back inside. So the bravery did not last very long.
No. Mrs. McAllister gets a hold of the police, but they give her a hard time and aren't really believing her. Reluctantly, they say that they'll send an officer to their house. But when the officer gets there, Kevin hides in the bed covers and the officer ends up leaving because he thinks no one is home. Which, I'm just so confused. I'm also confused why Mrs. McAllister didn't make it more clear that this is an 8-year-old.
And why they didn't, like the cops didn't seem to care even when she said that.
Yeah.
Like the cops were acting like you want us to babysit your kid. Like I'm confused why you want us to stop by, you know?
It's like she needed to say, no, I accidentally left my kid at home, flew to Paris.
Yes.
And he's there by himself. Like, go help him.
Mm-hmm.
Communication skills out the window here. Meanwhile, Mr. McAllister tries to get flights home, but everything is booked for the next 2 days. Mrs. McAllister decides to stay at the airport in case she can get on a standby flight home, while Mr. McAllister and the rest of the family go to stay with cousins so that they can stay near the phones.
Back at home, Kevin climbs Buzz's bookshelf to get to his lunchbox, I think, where he saves all his money. And the bookshelf breaks while he's standing on it, obviously. You could see this coming as soon as he started climbing up it. And when it breaks, the tarantula tank breaks and the spider gets out. And Kevin takes all of Buzz's cash. He does not care that everything's broken.
Mm-mm. We see the burglars breaking everything in the house across the street from the McAllisters. While they're there, Mr. McAllister calls and leaves a voicemail with their contact info in Paris. And he doesn't directly mention Kevin, so the burglars take this as a sign that the McAllisters are definitely out of town. So they plan to go to the McAllister house that night.
Kevin goes to this local shop to spend Buzz's money. He tries to buy a toothbrush. But I'm like, why do you need it to? I'm so confused. But he's trying to be an adult. It's very sweet. And the, quote, scary neighbor shows up at the store. And so Kevin runs away before paying because he's so just like freaked out. And then a cop ends up chasing Kevin for shoplifting, but he escapes. There are actually a handful of incidences throughout this movie where Kevin almost has an interaction with an adult that could help him, but he doesn't, and he doesn't tell anyone.
Yeah. Actually, that happens a lot. You're so right. Harry and Marv almost run Kevin over on his walk home, and when they stop to lecture him for walking in front of traffic, Kevin sees Harry's gold tooth and recognizes him as the fake cop, and he gets rightfully scared.
Mm-hmm. That night, the burglars pull up to the McAllister's house, but Kevin has rigged it, so he has all these dummies and cardboard cutouts moving behind the window so that the burglars see shadows of people moving, and it works. The burglars decide they will come back the next day to try again. It's a very impressive setup.
Mm-hmm.
Then we see Kevin order pizza. So again, he's doing all the fun adult stuff where he's like, I can go to the store, I can order my own pizza. And he plays this old movie. Sorry, I don't know what the movie is. I'm sure it's iconic and famous. But he plays this movie in response to everything the delivery guy says. So it seems like an adult is talking to the delivery guy through the door. So like the guy is saying something outside. Then Kevin presses play on this one specific line of the movie. So it sounds like he's an adult man speaking back to the delivery man. And eventually the guy leaves the pizza. Kevin gets the pizza. And he's so happy because it's his cheese pizza finally, and there's nobody else home to take it from him. Back at the airport, Mrs. McAllister strikes up a deal with another passenger to get an earlier flight. She trades this couple for first-class tickets on Friday, 2 days later, so that she can take their seats and go home to Kevin earlier.
At home, Kevin is getting lonely, and he looks at a photo of his family and he promises never to be a pain in the butt again if they come back.
This broke my heart.
I know.
Sweet Kevin. Just everything he does in this movie is just so, like, classic little kid. Like, none of it is his fault. He's upset the first night because it's overwhelming to have that many people in the house and he feels overlooked. And then he just makes all these silly kid mistakes because he's trying to, like, be confident and, like, feel like he can handle it by himself. It's just really sad. Then Kevin goes to the grocery store and acts very adult. He's pushing around the cart and getting everything himself. It's very cute. And then the person at the register gets suspicious that he's there alone, but he says that his mom is just in the car waiting for him. Then he walks home with the groceries and the bags break. So we're just like seeing things start to go wrong for Kevin. He misses his family, the grocery bags break. And then we see him doing laundry in the basement like a real grown-up.
I was also like, why do you need to do laundry right now? You should have a bunch of clean clothes in your suitcase.
No. I think he's just like he thinks that this is forever. He thinks that he is just going to be, like, he has to be a grown-up now, you know? And this is what his parents would do.
Yeah, what do grown-ups do? Laundry.
They go to the grocery store, they do laundry.
Marv goes back to the McAllister's house, but when he tries to get in the back door, Kevin plays his movie to make it sound like someone is home, and he also sets off real fireworks to mimic the gunshots in the movie, so it sounds like someone is actually shooting a gun. And it works, it scares Marv away, and he runs back to his car. He thinks someone else already broke into the McAllisters, and that's who he heard. So he and Harry decide to wait outside the house to see who else is trying to rob the block.
Okay, I did just look up what movie he uses to, like, speak to people throughout this movie. It is called Angels with Filthy Souls.
Okay. I know the Merry Christmas, you filthy animal thing is like such a huge line from this movie, and it's...
I don't think that's from this movie.
Oh, the filthy animal part?
I think that, well, they say in this movie, keep the change, you filthy animal.
Oh, that's
Merry
right.
Christmas, you filthy animal. I thought came from A Christmas Story.
Oh my God. I don't think so. Wait.
Oh, Merry Christmas, you filthy animal is from Home Alone 2.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
That's why I was getting all my wires crossed. I was like, what is this from? Okay.
Okay, that makes way more sense because I also clocked that they said filthy animal in the movie that they're playing inside this movie. And I was like, okay, this has to be connected somehow. So you're right.
Yeah, and because it is like one of the famous quotes, I feel like, from Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. We're with it.
We see that Mrs. McAllister makes it part of the way home. She's been on several flights to try to get closer to Chicago. But it's Christmas Eve, and there are no more flights that can get her all the way there.
Then a man named Gus Polinski, Polka King of the Midwest, played by John Candy, tells Mrs. McAllister that they're driving to Milwaukee, and so they're happy to drive her to Chicago.
Harry and Marv see Kevin outside in his yard cutting down the top of a pine tree, which he's doing to like make a mini Christmas tree inside the house, which is very cute. And Harry immediately puts together what's been going on. He says, I think we're getting scammed by a kindergartner. And Kevin overhears them saying that they'll come back at 9 o'clock that night. And then he says to himself, Mom, where are you?
Oh, so sad.
I know.
We cut to Mrs. McAllister in the back of a budget moving van with the polka band.
It's a hilarious sight. And then Kevin goes to see Santa. You can tell this is his last resort because it's getting close to 9 o'clock. The Santa that he goes to see, the like little Santa shop where you can, visit Santa, take photos, is closing up. And so Santa's getting into his car and smoking a cigarette. And Kevin tells him that he knows that he's not the real Santa because he knows how this works. But he knows that he works for the real Santa.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin asks him to tell the real Santa that instead of presents, he just wants his family back.
I thought that the Santa was very realistic and also very sweet.
Yeah. He actually does a good job. It is really funny. Like at first when he's like trying to stamp out his cigarette.
Yeah.
But he does a really good job of like being like, oh yeah, I can tell him that. But also, like this Santa man needs to call the police.
I know. He didn't go the extra mile like he should have. Because you could tell in his face he realized something was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's when you
I get
ask
his
more
address.
questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Then Kevin goes to a Christmas Eve church service and sits in the back. The scary neighbor is there and wishes him a Merry Christmas. And this is the first time we've heard him speak in the movie. The scary neighbor is played by Roberts Blossom. And he asks Kevin if he can sit next to him at church. And Kevin kind of nods. It's really cute. And then he says that his granddaughter is in the choir and she's about Kevin's age. And he's there to listen to her sing. He says Kevin can say hello next time he sees him. And that he doesn't have to be afraid, and that he basically knows that all the kids are scared of him, but it's a lie.
All I could think in this moment is why is Kevin not just throwing caution to the wind and saying, there's burglars coming to my house right in 30 minutes?
I don't know, but it makes me want to teach my future kids to like call 911, find an adult, like, I don't know.
Yes, totally.
I feel like this man has run into Kevin multiple times while he's by himself. He's the neighbor, so he has to know that the family is out of town. He knows what the family usually looks like in the house, and it's like bustling.
Mm-hmm.
So why isn't he putting two and two together that he needs to get someone involved?
True.
I don't get it.
Yeah, there are many adults that fail Kevin in this movie.
That's true.
And I wish that Kevin would just tell someone.
I know.
Ugh. So the neighbor actually confides to Kevin that he's estranged from his son, and so he came to church to see his granddaughter because he can't go to her house. And he says that he and his son got in an argument, and they said they never wanted to see each other again, so they didn't. And this obviously mimics what Kevin thinks is happening with his own family right now. And it's very sweet because then Kevin gives him advice. Kevin tells him to just call his son because he says that he'd talk to his dad no matter how mad he was.
Yeah.
Cute.
Then Kevin rushes home to defend his house, and we see him putting tar on the stairs and setting up a lot of little traps all over the house. Very iconic.
Then the clock strikes 9 and the burglars show up. And Kevin shoots Buzz's BB gun at them through the dog door right when they show up. And this obviously hurts and angers Harry and Marv. I think he shoots them like in the leg and in the face. So the burglars then go to the front door and they repeatedly fall on the stairs because Kevin made sure the stairs were covered in ice. And then Marv finally makes it through the basement door and a hot iron falls on his face. And then Harry makes it up to the front door and the handle burns his hand. And then we just see this like hilarious montage of each man, because they like went in different entrances of the house, falling into Kevin's traps over and over again. Their feet get stuck in tar, their hat catches on fire. And eventually Harry and Marv do catch up to Kevin, but he escapes by putting Buzz's tarantula on Marv's face. And then he calls 911 and he leaves the house through a zip line that he made that goes to his treehouse.
Wild. All of it, wild.
Wild.
I don't know how he set it up that fast.
No. Yeah, reality is suspended.
But I just know that every kid wanted to be able to do this, I think. Marv and Harry follow Kevin on the zip line, and Kevin cuts the rope so that they fall. Instead of continuing to follow Kevin into his traps, they decide to cut him off and catch him. And right as they're threatening to hurt Kevin, the scary neighbor shows up, and he hits both men in the back of the head with the shovel and brings Kevin back to his house. From across the street, we see the police show up and arrest Harry and Marv.
Yay. Back in the Polka van, Gus unsuccessfully tries to cheer Mrs. McAllister up. We can tell it's been a long journey for them. And then we see Kevin wake up on Christmas morning, and it's snowing and it's beautiful outside, and he runs downstairs yelling for his mom, expecting her to be there, but she's not.
So sad.
Yeah, I think he thinks that his wish to Santa might have come true overnight.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's holding out hope. But moments later, we see Kevin staring at the photo of his family on the couch, and Mrs. McAllister comes in the house. Kevin runs to the front door, and his mom apologizes, and he smiles and runs to her, and they hug, and it's very nice to see them reunited. And then he asks where everyone else is, and right as Mrs. McAllister is saying that they couldn't all get home in time, the door opens, and all of the McAllisters come inside. And this just made me laugh because I was like, okay, so actually, Mr. McAllister got the flight 2 days later. And she stayed at the airport and did all of these layovers and this crazy long drive only to get there at the exact same time as them.
I know. Sad.
But I get it. That's like a mom thing to do.
Yeah.
It's like as long as you feel like you're
trying,
possibly going to get there earlier, yeah, you might as well. So it's the entire loud, crazy bunch back in the house for Christmas. And Buzz, Kevin's older brother, tells him that it's pretty cool he didn't burn the whole house down. They're all stunned when they find out that Kevin went to the grocery store by himself. And his dad says, "What else did you do while we were away?" And Kevin says, "Oh, nothing, just hung around."
The house is pristine, by the way, guys. All of the traps are put away.
He's cleaned everything.
It's all decorated for Christmas somehow. Yeah, there's no remnants, which is hilarious.
Also, I would have been telling my parents immediately what happened, even if they wouldn't believe me.
Oh, same. And I would have left everything. Also, I would have been traumatized and probably would have slept at the neighbor's house, honestly. Anyway, we see Mr. McAllister find the gold tooth on the ground, Harry's gold tooth. And then Kevin looks out the window and he sees his neighbor, the once scary neighbor that's now his friend, and his neighbor's son and his family, which is so sweet. They're all hugging, and you can tell that the neighbor took Kevin's advice and must have called his son, and now they're spending Christmas together. His neighbor actually waves at Kevin through the window as he hugs his granddaughter. And then from the background, we hear Buzz yell, "Kevin, what did you do to my room?" And that's the end.
The way that I kind of teared up when his neighbor is with his granddaughter and his son and family. Oh my gosh.
It's very sweet.
It was. Have you seen any of the other Home Alone movies?
I don't think so. The fact that Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal comes from the second one makes me think that I must have seen that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That one's the one where he's lost in New York. And that's the one I remember.
Okay.
Because he's at a hotel by himself or something. I've definitely seen that one. That one came out 2 years later in 1992. But then there's a million more, you guys. I didn't even realize the full extent. There's Home Alone 3 from 1997. Home Alone 4 from 2002, Home Alone: The Holiday Heist from 2012, and then my absolute least favorite movie in the entire world, Home Sweet Home Alone from 2021.
Oh no.
My family was watching it one Christmas, and when I tell you that is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Sorry to yuck anybody's yum who loves that movie, but it was all logic was out the window with that remake. It could have been so good and cute, and then they just missed the mark on a lot of places. And I think Mikey Day from SNL wrote it. It had so many famous people in it. It had Ellie Kemper from The Office. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
Kenan Thompson was in it too, and a bunch of actors I really enjoy, but it was so bad. I would love to know if you guys have seen it. If you disagree with me, please tell me why, because then, I tend to, if I rewatch these kind of things, I tend to like them.
Yeah, once your expectations are adjusted.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there are so many Home Alone movies. That is wild. They have milked it for decades.
They really have. But I'm so glad that we watched this one.
Me too. This was a really, really fun one. It really put me in the Christmas spirit. I mean, Love Actually and Dash and Lily both did too, but just watching a classic that I have seen so many times was nice.
Yeah.
Next week is our last Christmas movie before the end of the year. I cannot believe it. And we are releasing it a little bit early, so you have time to listen before Christmas. Especially because I hope some of you are taking a few days off, or even if you're not and you listen to this on your commute or you're traveling, hopefully you guys will have a few days to listen to it and it'll put you in the holiday spirit.
Yay, I can't wait for that one. Don't forget to check out the gift guide for movie lovers that we did with Beyond My Byline. Link is in the description. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Bye.